You are currently losing a war you do not even realize you are fighting. Every single morning, millions of American professionals wake up at 6 a.m., chug a burnt Starbucks or Dunkin' cold brew, and open their laptops to sync with East Coast market hours. They stare at their Google Calendar, look at their perfectly color-coded time blocks, and make a silent promise to themselves. Today is the day. Today, they will finally write that sales copy, launch that digital storefront, or hit the gym after work. Then reality hits. The corporate machine activates. Slack notifications start pinging like a casino slot machine. Microsoft Teams invites pile up. Zoom fatigue sets in by 2 p.m. In the break room, there is a fresh box of free glazed donuts. By 5 p.m., their brain is completely fried. They drive home, slide onto the couch, and spend 3 hours scrolling through Reddit or TikTok while waiting for a late-night DoorDash delivery. They crawl into bed at midnight, paralyzed by guilt, only to repeat the exact same loop tomorrow. Here is the brutal paradox. Winners and losers in the American economy have the exact same goals. The corporate drone pulling a 70-hour week wants financial freedom. The solopreneur stuck at $5,000 a month wants a multi-million-dollar exit. The person struggling to climb out of bed wants a high-performance body. If goals actually worked, everyone walking down Wall Street would have a six-pack and a 9-figure portfolio, but they do not. The self-help industry has spent decades selling you a massive lie. They told you that the missing variable is discipline. They told you to grind harder, wake up at 4 a.m., and force your way to success through sheer willpower. That advice is not just useless, it's scientifically illiterate. Relying on willpower to change your life is the behavioral equivalent of trying to hold your breath underwater. Eventually, your biology takes over. Human beings are not spiritual entities driven by pure intent. We are biological organisms governed by efficiency algorithms. Your brain does not care about your 5-year business plan. It cares about current energy expenditure and immediate survival. When you try to force a new habit through raw discipline, you are trying to rewrite your neural pathways using a battery that drains completely by lunchtime. To understand why you are stuck, you have to look at the cold reality of cognitive science. Every choice you make throughout the day costs energy. Deciding which email to answer, which Slack message to ignore, and whether to skip the office muffins drains your mental capacity. This is decision fatigue. By the time you shut down your laptop, your executive function is completely bankrupt. Expecting your brain to choose a difficult task like building a business or lifting weights when it's running on empty is a fundamental design flaw. High-performance individuals do not have more discipline than you. They just understand 3 fundamental laws of human behavior that you are completely blind to. First, they don't build habits to achieve outcomes. They build environments to shift their internal identity. Most people approach change completely backward. They focus entirely on the outer layer of the target. They say, I want to quit my 9-to-5, or I want to hit $20,000 a month on Stripe. This is outcome-based thinking. It's weak because it leaves the internal operating system completely untouched. When you focus only on the outcome, you are fighting against the story you tell yourself about who you are. Consider 2 remote corporate workers trying to transition into full-time online business owners. Someone offers them a low-paying freelance gig that wastes their time. The first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to build my agency." The second person says, "No thanks, I don't take low-leverage work." The difference is subtle but total. The first person still views themselves as a corporate employee who is trying to change. Every decision is a negotiation. Every resistance requires energy. The second person has already rewritten their internal identity. They are not fighting an old habit. They are simply acting like themselves. You can never outsmart your own self-image. Your daily actions will always bend back to match the shape of who you believe you are. You don't change your self-image with daily affirmations or vision boards. Your brain is a cynical machine. It only believes in cold, hard metrics. It requires empirical evidence. Every single action you take throughout the day is a vote cast for the person you are becoming. When you close Slack and open a blank document to write copy for 2 minutes, you're casting a vote for a business owner. When you choose a glass of water over a midday soda, you're casting a vote for an athlete. You don't need a massive transformation overnight. You just need to win the daily election by a single vote. Second, high performers don't trust motivation. They trust systems. Motivation is a highly volatile financial asset. It spikes after you watch a high-production YouTube video or read a finance book, and then it crashes to zero the moment you face a difficult problem. Building a life around motivation is like building a house on a swamp. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you sink to the level of your systems. A system is simply the physical design of your workspace. It is the arrangement of your tools so that the right choice requires zero cognitive effort. If you leave your work laptop open with your business plan already loaded on the screen and you place your phone in another room, the system forces focus. If you rely on your mind to remember to work while sitting next to a TV with a remote in your hand, you have already lost. The environment will always win over intent. Third, the elite don't quit when their efforts seem invisible. They understand the non-linear math of human progress. When you start a new business or enter a new market, you put in massive effort and see absolutely zero returns. Your Stripe dashboard remains empty. Your view counts stay under double digits. This is the plateau of zero feedback. It feels like failure, but it's actually just delayed returns. Think about a block of ice sitting in a room at 26 degrees. If you heat the room to 27 degrees, 28 degrees, and 29 degrees, nothing changes. The ice looks exactly the same. The average person looks at this and assumes the system is broken. They quit. But then the room hits 32 degrees. The ice melts. The breakthrough was not caused by the last degree of heat. It was the result of all the energy stored up before. Progress scales through compound interest. Improving by just 1% today feels completely insignificant in the moment. It's a rounding error. But if you maintain that 1% trajectory every day for a year, you don't finish slightly better. You finish 37 times more effective. Conversely, when you let your standards slip by just 1% every day, skipping one workflow, letting one deadline slide, ordering one extra delivery, you don't just stay the same, you spiral down towards zero. Your daily habits are the compound interest of your professional life. Once you internalize this math, you stop judging your days by the immediate revenue generated and start judging them by the systems maintained. To control this process, you must understand how human actions work at the absolute root. Every action you repeat, from checking your investment portfolio to opening a junk food app, runs on a continuous 4-step loop: cue, craving, response, and reward. The cue is the physical or digital trigger that catches your attention. The craving is the anticipation of a change in your current mental state. The response is the actual execution of the habit. The reward is the biological feedback that tells your brain whether this action is worth memorizing for the future. Your brain is not loyal to your long-term success. It's strictly loyal to immediate rewards. If an action provides instant relief, instant comfort, or an immediate distraction from a stressful project, your brain saves that sequence automatically. This is why breaking a bad habit is incredibly difficult in a modern digital economy. The reward structures are completely mismatched. Bad habits provide an instant reward followed by a long-term cost. Ordering a highly processed meal via an app gives you immediate satisfaction, while the health cost is pushed months into the future. Good habits operate in the exact opposite way. The cost is paid immediately in the form of focus and energy, while the reward is delayed for weeks, months, or years. To win this game, you cannot rely on human nature. You have to actively re-engineer the 4-step loop. If you want to install a high-leverage habit, you must make the cue obvious, make the craving attractive, make the response easy, and make the reward satisfying. If you want to eliminate a destructive habit, you must invert the framework. Make the cue invisible, make the craving unattractive, make the response difficult, and make the reward painful. Let us break down how to execute this inside your daily routine, starting with the first step, making the cue obvious. Most professionals do not have a lack of talent, they have a complete lack of environmental clarity. Your brain is a highly reactive machine that responds directly to whatever is placed in its line of sight. If your personal phone sits directly next to your work monitor, you will look at it. If you have social media bookmarked on your work browser, you will click it. You are not weak, you are simply being out-designed by your tools. You must take total control of your physical and digital surroundings. If you want to write content every morning, you should close every single tab on your computer the night before, except for a blank Google document. When you open your laptop at 6 a.m., the cue is unavoidable. There is no navigation required, no choices to make, and no options to wander. The workspace itself pulls you into the task. You can also attach new behaviors to routines that are already deeply embedded in your day. This is the strategy of habit stacking. You do not try to create a new habit out of thin air. Instead, you anchor it directly to a structural event that happens every single day without fail. Consider the standard corporate sequence. Your anchor event might be shutting down your weekly team sync on Friday afternoon. You can stack a new high-leverage habit directly onto this moment by following a strict formula. The moment I exit the weekly sync call, I will immediately open a dedicated spreadsheet and log my 2 primary professional metrics for the week. If you want to improve your network, you can stack it onto your morning routine. The moment my coffee machine finishes brewing, I will open LinkedIn and send one message to an industry peer. You are leveraging the momentum of an existing neural pathway to pave a new one. The second step is making the habit attractive. Human beings do not take action because something is objectively good for their long-term bank account. They take action because they anticipate how they will feel during or immediately after the process. Most people fail to sustain new ventures because they make the execution phase incredibly dry and tedious. To fix this, you must bundle your temptations. This means you take a low-friction, high-pleasure activity and link it directly to the high-leverage habit you need to build. If you have an administrative task you hate, like sorting through client invoices or organizing your accounting system, you apply a strict rule. You only listen to your favorite production mix or sit in your favorite workspace while executing that specific task. If you love a particular tech podcast, you only allow yourself to listen to it while cleaning your desk or preparing your physical workspace for the next day. You are artificially attaching a positive association to a task that your brain naturally wants to avoid. The third step is making the response easy. This is where most ambitious professionals completely destroy their own progress. They try to launch massive projects all at once. They decide to write a 5,000-word sales letter on a Sunday morning, or they try to build an entire automated email sequence in one sitting. This immediate leap into high complexity triggers massive resistance in the brain, leading to procrastination. Your goal must be to reduce the friction of the first step to practically zero. You can achieve this by implementing a strict 2-minute rule for every new behavior. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 120 seconds to execute the initial phase. You are not trying to build an entire web page. You are simply opening your design software and creating a new canvas. You are not trying to read a dense financial report. You are simply reading one single page. This sounds incredibly basic, but it is rooted in physics. The most difficult part of any workflow is the transition from rest to motion. Once you overcome the initial inertia, maintaining the momentum becomes significantly easier. A habit must be firmly established before it can be optimized. If you cannot master the simple art of showing up at your desk for 2 minutes every single day, you will never master the complex art of scaling an enterprise. To eliminate bad habits, you apply this rule in reverse. You make the response incredibly difficult. The modern digital economy is engineered to remove all friction from consumption. Companies spend billions of dollars ensuring that you can buy products with one click, order food with a face scan, and access infinite distractions with a single swipe. If you try to fight this level of optimized engineering with raw willpower, you are bringing a knife to a laser fight. You must build massive structural friction between yourself and your vices. If you find yourself mindlessly opening food delivery apps late at night when you should be resting, you need to break the automation. Delete the apps from your phone. Remove your saved credit card information from your browser. The next time you feel the impulse to order a late-night delivery, the system forces you to download the app again, type in your full address, and manually enter your 16-digit credit card number. This multi-step friction introduces a critical cognitive pause. It gives your brain the time it needs to evaluate whether you actually want the food or if you are simply reacting to exhaustion. The fourth step is making the reward satisfying. Your brain operates on an immediate reward processing scale. Bad habits capture you because their negative consequences are delayed, while their benefits are instant. Good habits lose your attention because their initial execution feels neutral or frustrating, while the positive payoff sits months down the road. To keep a good habit alive, you must artificially create an immediate sense of validation. This requires a highly visual, low-effort tracking setup. You should maintain a binary dashboard on your desktop or a physical whiteboard next to your desk. Every single day you complete your core deep work session, you mark a clean, bold check mark on that tracker. The simple physical act of marking your progress provides an immediate hit of satisfaction. As the visual streak grows from 3 days to 10 days to 20 days, the motivation shifts. You are no longer just working on a project, you are actively protecting the streak. The psychological pain of breaking a perfect visual record becomes a powerful force that keeps you at your desk when your energy levels start to dip. However, consistency is not just about starting, it's about managing the inevitable days where your schedule completely falls apart. No matter how well you design your systems, you will encounter critical days with client emergencies, unexpected corporate meetings, or sudden health issues. This is where the elite separate themselves from the amateurs by following one unyielding law: never miss twice.
Missing your routine once is an isolated accident. Missing your routine twice is the formal beginning of a whole new habit loop, usually a destructive one. If you skip your deep work window on Tuesday morning because of an unannounced project crisis, you have not ruined your career. You have simply experienced a normal statistical outlier. But if you allow that failure to justify skipping Wednesday morning as well, you are actively training your brain to quit when things get difficult. On a bad day, your only objective is to do a scaled-down micro version of the habit just to maintain the neural connection. If you cannot write for 2 hours, write for 2 minutes. If you cannot run for 3 miles, walk for 3 blocks. Guard the pattern at all costs. As your habits stabilize, you will eventually encounter a hidden danger that the self-help industry completely ignores: the trap of structural boredom. When you first start an online venture or optimize your daily career habits, every small victory feels exciting. Your first client conversion, your first automated workflow, and your first successful week give you a massive boost. But eventually, the novelty fades. The daily tasks transform into a repetitive routine. You have to write the same copy, audit the same data sheets, and execute the exact same morning protocols week after week. Amateurs mistake this structural boredom as a sign that their strategy is failing. They assume they need a new project, a new niche, or a new tech stack. They abandon a working system to chase a shiny new concept, resetting their compounding progress back to zero. The absolute highest performers in any competitive space do not look for constant novelty. They master the rare art of falling in love with the daily boredom of execution. They look at the monotonous work and treat it like a scientific process. They understand that true scale is not the result of a single brilliant breakthrough. It is the inevitable outcome of running the exact same high-leverage protocols long after the initial excitement has left the room. To keep your brain engaged during this phase without changing your core strategy, you must position your work inside the Goldilocks zone. Human motivation reaches its absolute peak when you are tackling a task that sits precisely on the razor-thin edge of your current capability. If a business workflow is too easy, it becomes mind-numbing and your attention wanders. If a project is too complex, it triggers stress and you abandon it. You must continuously calibrate your daily work parameters. If your client acquisition system becomes automated and repetitive, do not abandon it to start a completely different business. Instead, increase the difficulty within the existing framework. Challenge yourself to double the output speed. Optimize the conversion rate by 5% or automate 80% of the delivery process using clean scripts. You are keeping the underlying engine exactly the same while modifying the load to keep your brain focused. Finally, you must realize that a high-performance system cannot run indefinitely without a formal optimization loop. Many corporate professionals and founders build an effective routine, maintain it for a month, and then watch it slowly disintegrate over the next quarter. They do not understand why they drifted back to their old habits. The reason is simple. Environments change, market conditions shift, and corporate pressures fluctuate. A habit design that worked perfectly during a quiet summer month will fail completely during a chaotic Q4 push. If you do not actively audit your systems, your daily routines will naturally decay. You must implement a strict, non-negotiable weekly audit every single Sunday afternoon. Treat yourself like an external consultant analyzing a business operation. Open a dedicated workspace and answer 3 specific questions. What went right this week, and what specific environment design allowed it to happen? What went wrong, and what precise digital or physical cue triggered the failure? What specific adjustment will I deploy tomorrow morning to ensure this failure cannot happen with the same level of ease? This continuous feedback loop turns self-improvement into a vague emotional goal into an objective engineering process. You stop blaming your character, you stop wishing for more willpower, and you stop feeling guilty about your bad days. You recognize that you are a complex biological machine operating inside a highly engineered modern environment. If the machine fails to perform, you do not lecture it. You simply step back, analyze the variables, and fix the design. Your success is not a reflection of your worth. It is the predictable output of the environment you choose to build.